All right, all right. Thursday is here. Who's ready for it? Who is ready? Somebody's ready. Come on. Who's ready for Thursday? Come on, Shaston. I need more than that. Somebody's got to have a win. Good five. All right, Shasta. What do you got?
So I've got, let me see. We've been through this hurricane and everything like that. So I've actually had 2 homes under contract that made it out just fine. No crazy damage, no nothing. We passed re-inspections, and we had one that we ended up having to move the date just because of insurance with the moratorium in place. But I have a couple of closings on the 25th, so we made it through, and I'm happy there wasn't any substantial damage or anything crazy happened with the storm. So a win for me.
Awesome. Awesome. And Martin, I assumed your kids cooked you breakfast this morning. That how it went down this morning over there?
He's got jokes this morning. Yeah, right. No.
No. All right. Maybe tomorrow. There's always tomorrow.
I do have a win though.
All right.
It's Zillow lead. They start out at 200. I'm looking at something with, they want either waterfront or the one they originally looked at was in Southwick. If you guys know which house it is, it had its own sprinkler system because the roof was so leaky. But we ended up going, I mentioned a couple in Tallinn and Beckett, and we went from 200 to 400, and we got an accepted offer last night.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You don't see that too much. And this is a classic story of why I just say you gotta get to the bottom of every one of these leads. You just have no idea what they might be capable of. And some of my best clients came in on really low end stuff that they were looking to build something on a piece of land. You know, they live in a $500,000 house and they're looking to build a $700,000 house, or, you know, they were looking for a reno that they could flip, but they could really buy the $400,000 house. So you got to work everything. Just treat them like a human being, be kind, and see how you can help. So I love that story. And I'm glad it worked out for you.
The best part is they're actually getting it under assessed value, which is in this market I think is awesome.
Yeah, beautiful. How long has that one been on?
As far as I'm not too sure. I don't remember the actual dates, but they started way too high. That was the problem. Now they start chasing the market basically.
Yeah, and those are beautiful properties to go after. Right? If you guys can find some long days on market properties where the seller's chasing the market down, you know, they're just happy to get something. So it's even like a search that I would do sometimes, right? Whatever the given market was, right? If we were in a 30-day market for average time on, then I'm looking for 2 or 3 times that, 60 or 90 days, right? And then give me everything that's been on the market for longer than that. I know these people are chasing, and I know my people can get a deal. So, you know, look at your market, look at your average days right now. You know, I think we're starting to see, getting probably closer to 30. I think the last stat that we threw out there was average under agreement property was on for 22 days, but average property that was sitting in the market still was 60 days. You know, in Florida could probably even be worse. So know your market, and then 2 or 3 exit on days on market. Do a search for those properties. See if your client likes any of those. Absolute way to get a steal. Cool. Who else has got something? I love Sikio Bloom. I follow his blog pretty religiously. And the other day we were talking a lot about morning routine. And he just put out something. I'm going to share my screen because there's a couple of things on here that I'm going to read, but a couple that I want you to see. Where is it? You guys see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Like yes? Awesome. So he put together this this blog called 4 Simple Habits to Transform Your Week. And you guys know me, I'm always looking for some productivity hacks or kind of ways to stay in flow. And there's a couple of unique things in here that I had never seen before. And I love Sahil for that stuff. I feel like he brings a lot of stuff that's a little outside the box. I share a lot of his stuff on this call. So the first thing that he put down here, which I think is really interesting, especially for a type A driver, is defining what a win looks like. Right. So he's got a process where he's just got like these little note cards, and on Sunday he's sitting down and he's writing out, hey, what does this week look like for me to win it? Right? Instead of, hey, I got, I'm trying to my whatever 5-year goals or my year goals, just how do I win this week? Because I think it was in this blog or another one where he writes about trying to do those top 3 things. That's definitely one of those mantras that's out there. What are your 3 priorities for the day? But you guys know how that can go sometimes. You just don't get to those 3 things. So I thought, taking a weekly look at, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish this week, and really trying to come back to those things. Because a lot of times I think we get a bunch of stuff done, but it wasn't anything obviously that moved the needle. That was a cool little idea. This one I love, creating awareness of his energy. And I didn't realize you could even do this. So you guys know, if you've got multiple calendars in Google, things show up in different calendars depending on what calendar you're looking like. So you might have your personal calendar, you might have your Rovi calendar, you might have your kids' sports calendar. And so it'll be color coded. But an interesting way to look at it is you can actually change the color of those things. So you can see, it's hard to see on this, but down the left-hand side here, very thin, is the original color. But you can right-click on an event and change the color. And so this is, hey, just kind of taking a look back at the things that you're doing and what's, energy creating, put it in green, what's yellow or neutral, and then what's draining your energy. And what can we do to start to try to eliminate those things that are showing up in red? Or, minimally, could we start to maybe block them together and just have some time where we bang that stuff out? I thought this was pretty neat. We push the mantra, if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. I think a lot of high producers are living by their calendar. They're getting their prospecting time in there. They're getting their family time in there. They're getting their client time in there. And then to just come back, take a look, what brought you energy, right? And you might even find that you've got 2 separate blocks of prospecting. One was going out door knocking in the neighborhood, and one was cold calling out of the CRM. And you might say, you know what? Like, I love going out. I got some sunlight. I got some exercise. I got some fresh air. I got to meet a few people. Like, the door knocking brought me some energy. And you put it in green. It's just like, hey, sit in front of a computer and making the dials just didn't do it for me. It was yellow or it was red. So take stock in what is actually, bringing you energy. Because even within a bucket of a task, prospecting, for different people, different ways of prospecting are going to bring them different levels of energy. So I loved this idea. Third was executing a daily management sprint. This kind of goes back to the first one a little bit. And this is getting into that flow state for the stuff that just is tedious. Emails, admin tasks, miscellaneous to-dos, and trying to just time block all of that stuff into, instead of throughout your day checking your emails, right? Because we all know that the studies that are out there, the time that it takes when you just go to check your email and you open it, and you think about it, and then it's the switching time that's lagging, where you switch back, go back to the task you were doing, and then you're checking your email again in 30 minutes, and you're checking again in 30 minutes. So trying to block all that stuff together. An app like Freedom or Rescue Time can help block out apps on your phone, websites on a desktop, to make sure you're limiting yourself. So you might say, hey, I only want my phone or my desktop browser to allow me to check emails at 10 and 4. And literally, you'll get a block screen if you're trying to go to the Gmail app on your phone or the Gmail web browser on Chrome or Safari. It'll just block it and say, this is free time. You shouldn't be working on emails. So it's pretty neat stuff. And then the fourth thing that he had here was investing 30 minutes per day in a vision. Just some math here, 1,440 minutes in a day. Invest 30 minutes of that in building your vision for the future. It's just 2% of your day, but read or write, build a prototype, meet one new person, learn a new skill. I think this is the one that I've probably been doing significantly more of over the past, let's say 6 to 12 months. Right. And it's just a lot more with this first bullet, reading and writing. Just trying to read, educate, go deeper on some topics where I feel like, I'm not the strongest. Maybe some new skills are building out of there, just a deeper understanding of some things. And just getting into a little bit of a flow where I'm really thinking about the life that I'm trying to build for myself. So trying to use some of the knowledge, these podcasts that, like Modern Wisdom, where you're getting the best of the best people in the world to share the best of the best knowledge that they've gained over their 10, 20, 30 years of doing whatever it is they do. So cool stuff. Anybody have any questions on that stuff? Anybody doing anything like that, or anybody have another tip of what they're doing through their week? So, we talk a lot about morning routine and nighttime routine, but this is an interesting one for the weekly routine and some stuff to kind of carry you through your day. Margareta.
Morning, all. Actually, I've tried the vision of what does my task, how do they phrase that? What is the success means like to you? The task that you have in mind, what does it mean for it to be completed per day? And that really worked for me well. And I thank you for reminding me. I need to get back into that. But that was very helpful because it just felt so rewarding at the end of the day when you set that mindset. It's almost like a mindset thing. And then you're like, wow, I did that. That felt great. So that was very rewarding and it just made you feel great. And ultimately you completed what you set up to do.
Yeah, and look, I've been through a lot of different phases. I've tried a lot of different things, and sometimes you do just need a little bit of reminder. Some of you guys have heard some of this stuff before. Maybe you even did it for a week, a month, a quarter, a full year, right? And just trying to put some stuff back in front of you. Try it again. Maybe you can hang on to the habit a little bit longer. Maybe you can habit stack this time to make sure it stays a habit, that you do it after something else that you're doing. Anybody else on this topic? All right, let's do some real estate. Who's got something going on a deal? Who put something together recently? Had something fall apart? Taylor.
Hi, I had a question. So typically when the seller's pumping the septic, regardless of whoever the buyer's using for that, they're entitled to use whoever they want, right? Whatever company. Stop.
The seller?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in Connecticut, so in Massachusetts it's a little bit different. A lot of times the septic hasn't been pumped and the buyer is doing what's called the Title V. And they might require a pump in order to do that Title V. I think some of the inspectors might, kind of partner with companies that can do it. So a lot of times in Mass, I think it would be the buyer that would be doing it. But in Connecticut, it's typically going to be the seller. And I'm not aware of anything that would say that the seller has to use who the buyer wants them to use, or, buyer could make it part of their deal that they say, hey, we want you to use this company.
Yeah. So the seller agreed to pump and the buyer's doing the digging inspection, which is, typical in Connecticut, but the buyer wants to use a certain company that seems really expensive. And my seller has, she basically has a longtime friend at the local company that does it to her for half the price. And she's already really compromised on the price of the offer she took and commission and all that stuff from the buy side. So, she also pumped it 5 months ago, and in Connecticut, technically, if you've pumped it less than 6 months ago, you're not even obligated to. But I, said that to the buy side, and it's just been silence. And I'm just
first thing that came to mind here for me is, hey, this is first of all, we don't even need to do this, like you said. Second of all, hey, she's got a friend that's in town and whatever, and she can get it done for a reasonable price. And third is, hey, here's the price. Your people are $300 higher. If you really want these people to do it and you're willing to pay the difference, we're happy to have those people do it.
Well, that's what I
You know?
said. I said if it's a pain to coordinate, she's willing to pay what she was going to pay her guy. If your guy wants to pay the difference, if he's so dead set on that company, but she's not even obligated to do this to begin with.
Right. She's
Just
not
so you
going
know,
to spend extra. Yep.
right.
Yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't like,
Yeah.
I don't
think
think
you're
it's
missing anything.
unreasonable, but I haven't heard back. So I was like, just want to throw it out.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Thank
That's
you.
a great one. Lori, did you have something on this?
I was going to suggest, why don't you get something in writing from when it was pumped last? Because when you have something on paper, it just makes people feel better. So maybe if she can find the invoice of when it was pumped last from her friend, maybe like Small Town Septic or something like that, and just get the invoice. And then maybe you can even have the person or company who pumped it make a statement like, septic tanks in Connecticut need to be pumped every 6 months. This was pumped on XYZ date. As of today, this is not required to be pumped. Like, get something in writing and then just email it over. And I feel like it might make everybody feel better.
Yeah, I know. I told her to check for a receipt or like an invoice, because if they were going to push back, we could have shown that. But she's willing to pump it. She's not even saying, I'm not going to do it. She just doesn't want to pay this guy's company, which seems like it's really high.
Yeah. Let's go with the difference. I want Lori's point to just be taken on all things. When you're verbalizing stuff versus when you put stuff in writing, whatever you're trying to negotiate, it definitely can help to just settle down the other side when they get something in writing on letterhead, etc. So whether we're talking about septic or a roof repair or a plumbing repair or a new install of an HVAC, whatever the case, right? When we can get it in writing versus, oh, we had this done and it's verbal, it just sits a little better. So always try and get stuff in writing if you can. Lauren, you had something.
You actually had mentioned my point, and that was regarding the difference between the two prices. So I'm good.
Cool. Anybody else want to throw some thoughts out there on septic or questions about septic since we're on the topic? Anybody have something weird come up with septic recently? We're getting into the cold season where we can't necessarily do these septic inspections. The ground's going to start to freeze. You can still do it even with frozen ground. It's just going to cost a lot more money to get through that frozen earth. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, typically we're looking at a holdback of 1.5 times the cost of a septic system, which can be quite a bit of money. So, if you are potentially representing a seller that could be looking at this, just trying to prepare them. And this Title V's are good for what, 2 years, and 3 if it's been pumped every year or something like that. Am I getting that right? Yeah. So if you've got a seller listing coming up, think about and it's got septic. Think about advising them, hey, you might want to get this thing tested now before the ground freezes. If you think you're going to be putting together a deal in December or January on that property, you'd like to have that Title V in hand now. Just make a smoother transaction moving forward. Anybody else on septic? A weird experience on septic that you want to share with the group? Okay, who else has got something? Jay, I don't know, or Lauren, I know we were dealing with a buyer that went out and spent some money post putting a deal together. Either one of you guys want to be able to kind of talk to that and what's going on with that deal and if we think we can salvage it or.
But sorry, which situation?
This is a situation where we had the buy side and I think the buyer went and bought a car or something.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So we had representation for the buy side of a property. During the transaction, the buyer missed a payment on their current vehicle and then turned that vehicle in and purchased another one, causing them to get loan denial. lender was Semper, so I know I know that it was mentioned to them like don't go make any of these big purchases. But I think just a second reminder probably from us at the very beginning while they're working on this process of don't buy anything. Like wait the 45 days, wait 60 days, and then go buy your furniture and then go get a new car. Because, really, are you willing to give up purchasing a home and having this new home over a vehicle right now versus 60 days from now?
Anybody else want to just chat about either how they're handling those situations or something else that might have come up that was just like wonky that, buyer didn't even realize they went and did X and it almost messed up a deal or it did mess up a deal?
I've had another where a client actually paid down too much on the wrong card. Like they had a couple of credit cards, and they thought it would be helpful during the process to like essentially pay off one of their entire cards. And the issue then lied that they didn't have the reserve funds because those funds were now gone on paying off that card. So it messed everything up, and they ended up having to wait longer to build back up those reserves for the loan.
Yeah, that's the classic example of why we've got to get these people, I don't care how early in the buying process they are, over to a lender that we trust. Period, end of story. Because they're going to make decisions on their own, what they think is in their best interest. And it just might not be. Right? If they are not in the world of what's going to raise your credit score, what's going to get you qualified for a mortgage, it's very easy to make a small financial mistake and misallocate some funds that, had they just been done the right way, or had we done something over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, we would be in a much better position. Right? So you've got to get your buyers to the preferred lender. Like, it just makes your life so much easier. It's going to make the client's life so much easier. You have a little bit of work up front. But a mistake like that, I don't know, Lauren, if that one, did it cost them even being able to buy it? Like they're not going to be able to buy a house now?
It ended up just being like a little while. And I believe in the end, they ended up getting some like gift funds to make up their account so that they had their reserves plus their down payment and closing costs, things like that. But if they weren't able to get that gift from that family member, then I don't think they would have been able to. They would have just got denied. And then until, everything, I don't know how long it would have taken, but in that situation, they wouldn't have been able to buy that house at that time.
Yeah. Their quote unquote dream home, because we didn't do the things that we needed to 6 to 9 to 12 months ahead of time. Right? Because you guys didn't drive the bus, because you didn't force them to do what we know is in their best interest. We've really got to do this stuff. Laura, did you have something? Lori, you're muted if you're trying to go.
Sorry. A
There you
good
go.
one that I like to talk about, especially with first-time home buyers, is mattress money and gift money. Lots of folks are like, oh, I gotta get all this money. I gotta put it in the bank. So I'm gonna buy this house. So I always kind of have the conversation like, hey, listen, if you do have money in a safe at home, or you do have, money that you got from your wedding and you haven't deposited it yet, like hang tight and let's talk to the lender about it, because we have to source and season it. I had a client once where they had a bunch of wedding money cash from cards, and they deposited it like the day we went to go look at houses after they had their pre-approval letter. And they're like, yeah, we just deposited a bunch of cash. And I'm like, oh my God. So we had to wait 60 days and let that season in order for us to actually pursue a house. And then another one with the gift money with new folks, they're so excited, and dad or whoever is going to give them money, and they're like, let's transfer it right away. And I'm like, no. I'm like, there's a process. You have to talk to the lender. There's paperwork that needs to be filled out. Like, don't do anything unless you talk to the lender. So I'm basically like, hey, look, they're like, hey, we want to go away on a vacation for the weekend. I'm like, just talk to the lender about it. Just check in, and they'll tell you what the best route is. You probably can still go, maybe use this source of money. So, I always tell them, just check in first. Like, don't start moving money around, transferring stuff. getting money from mom and dad, like just hang tight, stay calm, and let's just check with the lender first every time. If there's any purchase over $500, anything that you're going to be doing, because they don't know any better, you know, and neither do their parents most of the time. So they're just like, oh yeah, my dad's going to gift me 50 grand to help me. I'm like, stop. The lender has a process. Let's talk to the lender about it. There's paperwork. And they're like, oh, but I try to talk about it up front. Because like I said, people get so excited, they start moving shit around, and then we have to wait 60 days or wait 30 days or whatever. So that's huge. Two combos I always have with newbies.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Anybody else want to share on this topic? Maybe something that you've run into a little bit weird? I know we just talking to an agent in the office yesterday. We had a transaction going, and not with our preferred. You know, it came pre-approved. They utilized, you know, this person at a larger bank. Everything was supposed to be fine. House goes under agreement, do inspections, they back out. They put us house number 2 under agreement. All of a sudden get a notification that the loan officer on the file has changed. So we're now second property, mind you. And the loan officer just sends an email, no phone call, no nothing, sends an email. Sorry, we can't do this loan. You know, luckily able to get it over to a trusted loan officer and put this deal together. In this case, the borrower had changed jobs. I don't even know if it was a job change. I think it was just like a relocation to a different region within the same company. And just all it would have taken was a couple of phone calls to the new regional manager to get some stuff in writing and save the deal. But again, when you got, you know, people that you don't know and trust, you can get yourself in a jam. So they can be difficult conversations, but I know you guys can do it. Now, we were just looking at, you know, when agents get leads and how many are they able to get over to our preferreds. We've got a brand new agent. First 7 leads have all talked to December. So if a brand new agent can get their clients to talk to our preferred, and you're struggling to, right? I think it's just a scripting, and it's a mentality thing, right? You're just not confident in something that you're saying, or you don't understand why it's so important. Martin?
I just have a question. I have a client that's looking at a condo. I called up yesterday to, you know, just to verify it's still available. And I guess you can't do conventional loan on this one because 51% of the condos are owned by one person. And it's a nice condo, really done, but it's a first-time buyer, and I feel hesitant about him purchasing this because if it's going to be a pain in the ass for him to purchase it, what about him selling down the road? I guess that's my question. I'm just curious about the advice people what would somebody else do? That's all. Is it something you would push, or just say, hey, listen, it's really up to you. And I told him to talk to the lender because I talked to the lender first. And he kind of mentioned the whole process they would have to go through.
Yeah, Martin, and we'll get right to you, Lauren. I just like full transparency. Here's the deal. This is probably the best condo we've looked at. Right in your price range. You know, this is, you know, conditions great, you know, location's great. Like this fits, right? Here is one of the issues that you could run into, right? So down the road, when you turn around to sell it, you're a potential buyer could run into this issue. Now, if you plan on being in this thing for 10, 15, 20 years, probably not that big of a worry. If you're looking at, hey, this is temporary, it's 1, 2, maybe even less than 5 years, you know, maybe this is something you should think a little bit harder about. Why don't you talk to the lender? Make sure you understand what the restrictions are for future buyers. Why don't you talk to your attorney, see what they have to say. You know, they might have a few words of wisdom for you. And then let me know what you want to do. Lauren.
We have a couple of these complexes around Western Massachusetts where a majority is owned by a single person or the percentage of them rented out is too high. And oftentimes what it comes down to, Martin, is there is a local lender, a bank, a credit union, something to that effect that has some way, something set up that will loan on those units. And it's super easy for them. They've done a lot of them, and thinking of one particularly in Holyoke, and they get financing no problem through one local credit union, but everybody else it was issues for. So maybe ask the current owners if they're aware, if there's something like that available as well. Continue the conversation if you're using Semper to see if they can match something like that, because you are aware that there is somebody available that can do it. But just know that there are several complexes, and they do, from my experience with it, have somebody who can find some financing on it.
They said they could finance it, but he has a 20% down, which is an issue. But I guess my concern is he's a young kid. If he does want to sell it 3, 4, 5 years down the road, this whole thing is about relationships, and I don't want to ruin a relationship because down the line he's like, what the hell did you sell me? I can't sell it now because it has to be a specific buyer that has X amount of money down and all this other stuff.
Yeah, and that's what we want out of you guys, right? That's exactly the concern that we should have with all of our clients. And that's why just full transparency, man. Here's the pros, here's the cons. Let me know what you want to do, right? We shouldn't be making these decisions. Right? We should be educating the client so that they can make the decisions. No different than when we're putting a property on the market. Hey, here's your options, right? Here's the pricing strategy options. Which one did you want to go with? Here's the advantages to pricing it low, medium, and high. Let me know what you want to do. We should never feel like we have to make a difficult decision. We should always feel like we have to educate, and the client's got to make that final decision, because you never, like you're saying, ever want it to come back on you a year from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now. Anybody else have any other thoughts on like these condos where it's, a lot of them are rented, or one owner, or any other weird things with the condos? Lauren, I don't know if you were aware of this, but KB was mentioning something. I know she's not on this morning, but I guess we're running into an issue with warrantable condos. There was a law that changed in 23. Anybody aware of this? They might be able to speak to it.
I am not.
Anybody else aware? Martin.
It's not about but that's exactly what the lender was calling it, was a warrantable condo.
Non-warrantable.
Non-warrantable. I'm sorry.
No,
Yes.
Yeah, non-warrantable. Yeah. Let me get a little bit more info on whatever law changed and why this is becoming a little bit more of an issue. And I will get back to you guys hopefully on tomorrow's call.
Yeah, I'll spend some time on this too, Steve.
Okay. Yeah, just if you could just talk to KB. I know she was the one that was dealing with it. I guess it's come up a few times over the past 30, 60 days. So let's see how big of an issue this is, or did it randomly just kind of rear its head a couple of times, and this has always been an issue or something. So let's try and get to the bottom, and we'll chat about it tomorrow. Go rock your Thursdays, and we will get back at it again tomorrow morning. Take care, guys.